In this video, I'll discuss if, else, and else-if statements in PowerShell. Now, in addition to the comparison operators, PowerShell has a fully featured conditional system where you can use statements like if, else, and else-if, programming statements. So let's take a look. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is actually create a variable. So I'm going to start with the $sign, string sign. Num, we'll call the variable num for number, equals, and I'll set it at 10 and press enter. Now you can also use write host, which actually writes back to the PowerShell screen. It looks like this: write-host and space and then the name of our variable, string num. Press enter and you can see the value is 10. Great, so we're all set. Now I'm going to use the if statement. So if, and what you do with if, it's very similar or exactly the same as working with languages like C and C# and so on, Java. In parentheses, you have your test statement. Now the test statement is the name of the variable, and then a space, and then I'm going to test for equality here. So I'll use the comparison operator EQ for equals, 10, close the parenthesis, and then put a space. You don't need to, but I'm going to put a space there. Create an opening brace, and then write-host and a string. It's 10. Close that brace and press enter, and as you can see, we get a positive result. The result comes back true because num does equal 10. Now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to bring it back with the up arrow, and this time I'm going to change the testing value to 11. So if the variable called num equals 11, right, it's 10, and we get nothing back because the variable is still 10, but we've changed our testing condition in the if statement to 11. So let's try something else here. I'm going to bring that back up, and I'm going to change this back to 10. Right host, it's 10. And then I'm going to put in an else statement. So if else works exactly the same way as it does with other programming languages. So if one condition is true, we get the first result. Otherwise, and that's where else comes in, we get the other result. So in braces, write-host, not 10. Close that brace and press enter, and we get that result of it's 10 because we know that we haven't changed the variable's value. Let's go ahead and do that. String num equals 11. Okay, press enter, and we've changed the value of the variable. So if I bring up that last command, this one right here, that tests for 10, we should get a false result, which means that the else statement will kick in and we'll get a result of not 10. And there you go, that worked. So let's take it one step further. Now what we want to do is bring that back up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an else if statement right here. So after the if statement, else if, like that. And then we have our testing condition in parenthesis. What I'll do is say string num dash, or space rather, dash equals 11. Close that parenthesis right there. Create our opening brace, write-host. It's 11. Close that brace, and then put a space. So we've added that extra statement. So here we're going to test to see if it's 10. If num is 10, we get a result telling us it's 10. But we have an else if here. So now it's going to check to see if it's actually 11. And if it is 11, then it's going to tell us that it's 11. And I'm going to change this because obviously we have two tests here. So I'm just going to put in a result for anything that doesn't come up that's either 10 or 11. I give up. Press enter, and you see we get 11. If I change the value of num back to 10, and I'll bring back that last command, now we get a result. It's 10. And if I change num to 12, and bring up that last command, we get the final else result. I give up. So you can see that you can do all sorts of interesting things using testing or comparison operators and the conditional statements of if, else, and else if. In this video, I'll discuss switch statements in PowerShell. Okay, I'm going to start by showing you something. Write-host. What I want to do here is get the date. You can use the getDate function. You open two parentheses, type in get-date, close one parenthesis, put in a period, and then whatever you're looking for, in this case, let's say day of year, and press enter. And there you go. It's the 99th day of the year. Now, if I bring that back up with the arrow key, I can change this to, let's say, day of week, and it tells me it's Sunday. Okay, perfect. We know what day of week it is, and that's good because what I want to do here is demonstrate the switch statement. Now, if you're familiar with other programming languages, C-like languages like C++, for example, then you're very familiar with the switch statement. All it is a conditional statement that allows you to choose a number of different options and switch between them, I guess, to choose the right one. And it looks like this, switch, switch, and then in parentheses, whatever the testing condition is. Now I'm going to open two parentheses and put in get-date. Close a parenthesis, put in a period, and we're going to bring back the day of week. We know it's Sunday. Close that parenthesis and put a space in here. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. What we want to do is we want to open a brace. So switch statements, just like in C-like languages, are encased inside braces. And in PowerShell, you can actually create multi-line commands by using the tick symbol. It's right next to the number 1 on the upper left hand of your keyboard. And when you put in the tick and press enter, PowerShell won't process the command. Instead, it shows us two right-angled braces or brackets, and that means that we can type again. And as long as we use that tick at the end of each line, we can keep on typing until we're finished, and then press enter to process. That last line won't contain a tick. So what I want to do here with the switch statement is put in our conditions. So the first condition, let's say, is Saturday. So Saturday, and I'll put that inside quotation marks. Now remember, switch get-date day of week creates a value there. The switch statement has a value. Here we're testing that value to see if it's Saturday. And the way it works is you put the test value, open a brace, and then whatever you want to do when you get that value. So write-host. Let's call this sports day. So Saturday is sports day. Close that quotation mark, close the brace. And there you go. Now, once again, I'm going to use a tick here. Make sure we don't process it when we press enter. Go to the next line. Let's check for Sunday. We know today is Sunday, so that's great. We should get a positive result off of this. And inside braces, whatever the result is. So write-host. We'll call this day off. Now, of course, I'm working today, so that's not really true, but that's okay. Most days... But that's okay. Sunday is a day off for most people. And I'll go ahead and put another tick in there. Very important that you put that tick in and press enter. Now, I could keep going. I could go on and on and on with all sorts of different results. 7 days of the week, for example, with a different response for each. But I really only want to test to see if it's either sports day, day off, or a work day. And the work days, of course, are Monday through Friday. And so with switch statements, you can have a default, and the default is the result if the switch condition isn't met with the previous entries. So if it's not Saturday and it's not Sunday, then the default would be whatever, and in this case, Monday to Friday. Inside braces, write-host, and then workday, and close that brace. Now I'm going to put in one final tick and press enter, and the reason I did that is because the switch statement is always contained inside an opening brace right there and a closing brace, which we'll put right there. Now I could have put it at the end of this line. It doesn't really matter, but I wanted to do it this way, using that tick to separate lines for the commands to show you the structure of the switch statement. So I put in that closing brace. Now keep in mind that we're done, and I don't need to put another tick in here, because if I do, it's just going to take us to the next line and allow us to keep on typing. So no tick means that when I press enter, we'll process the switch statement, and we should get that result of today being day off. And there you go. So that's how the switch statement works. It's really powerful. It's part of your toolkit when you're working with PowerShell. And once you start to get a feel for using these statements and even some techniques like using that tick to create multi-line commands, you'll be programming with PowerShell like a pro.